Is Montez Sweat back? Does it matter? That and more this week on the IDP Blitz. Matt Schauf. Is Montez Sweat back? And this weekend against the Eagles, does it matter?
I don't know. We'll have to see. So he was all set to play last week after 4 weeks down with a broken jaw. Then he got COVID. I guess as soon as he opened his mouth, he should have been wearing a mask. Not yet off the COVID list as we speak right now. We'll see if he's off in time for the coming game. He missed last week's game, not vaccinated from what I know. So that doesn't help his return timeline at all. Ron Rivera said he hadn't ruled him out for this week, but all around the team, others are dropping. Jonathan Allen joined him on the COVID list this week. Matt Ioannidis was placed on the COVID list today. So that's 2 more defensive linemen. And Matt Ioannidis, by the way, I don't remember how many I's are at the beginning. Ioannidis. But he has passed Jonathan Allen in playing time the past 2 weeks. So he's become more important. And with all of the myriad defensive ends missing over the past few weeks, those guys have been especially important. So I'm not sure who's going to play D-line for Washington this week. Now, the part about whether it matters is it might not. The Philly matchup is not good for D-line scoring. The Eagles are allowing just less than 1.8 sacks per game for the year. Only 2 Philly opponents have reached 3 sacks in a game all season. Left tackle Jordan Mailata has allowed just 2 sacks all year, 1 other quarterback hit, according to Pro Football Focus. That's the side that Sweat is primarily playing on when he's been on the field this year, the right side where he would face Mailata. Played mostly the left edge last year, so he's capable of both sides. But if he moved to that side, it wouldn't be any better because Lane Johnson has not allowed a single sack at right tackle. So there's no good matchup for him this week. Next week's Dallas. It looks like a better matchup with Dallas. They just allowed 4 sacks to Washington. 2 of those, though, were on Landon Collins blitzes. So also not a great matchup overall for D linemen. And then Philly again in week 17.
Right.
So we'll see about Montez Sweat for this week. We'll see if he's an option in week 16. Definitely not somebody to get excited about.
You mentioned Mailata, and I know this is a defense show, not an offensive line show, but I don't feel like we've given enough credit to the Eagles for taking a giant rugby player in the 7th round and turning him into a starting left tackle. That's incredible.
Not only that, I mean, what he's done too, but also it's, take it as an example of taking your shots as opposed to, overpraising for one particular decision. So they not only took a shot on him and developed him, they also spent a 1st-round pick on Andre Dillard, which has not worked out. So there are going to be some of those hits and misses in all those areas. So, the takeaway is definitely throw as many darts as you can and more are going to hit the target.
Yeah, and Titus Howard, who the Texans ended up with, everyone thought they should have traded up for Andre Dillard, probably going to be a better pro than Dillard. I'll tell you who's going to be a good pro, Micah Parsons, and the Cowboys' resources taking shots to build that defensive line. It's bearing fruit, a lot of fruit, and that delicious fruit could continue to be in our pantry going in here to week 15.
Sunday was a fruit salad against Washington. The defense dominated for most of that game before Cole Holcomb brought things back. But Randy Gregory returned for that game, missed the previous 4 with a calf injury, had a sack, 2 quarterback hits, interception, forced a fumble in that game, only played 46% of the snaps. That was his lowest mark of the season. So we expect that to ramp back up now that he gets further away from the calf injury. They, of course, have the Giants this week and then Washington again. So Randy Gregory is going to be worth having on a roster, even though he's, a bit of a boom bust when he doesn't get a sack in a game. Especially, he's more valuable the more that your league rewards pressures. And of course, we know at this point, it's better to reward as many of those plays beyond sacks as you can. DeMarcus Lawrence has been back for 2 games now. He was up from 53% in his return game to a nice 69% last week against Washington, got his first sack of the season, just his 3rd game. He missed about half the year, a little more than half the year with a broken foot, 3 quarterback hits over his 2 games. So I think DeMarcus Lawrence is back to being somebody to use. And I mean, even though he's not really going to impact our lineups, Neville Gallimore is back on the inside at defensive tackle. So, just another guy who's healthy, getting them back to where they want to be physically and making that defense better overall over these next few opponents.
Yeah, the Cowboys defense leading the team to a division title. That's the year 2021. A lot of years recently, Matt, the Broncos have unearthed some gems at defensive line, interior defensive line positions, right? Shelby Harris, well, defensive end, defensive tackle, the big guys, not the edge rushers. Jashawn Williams has been doing some things. Certainly he's a great story, but one of the players they spent a draft pick on, Dre'Mont Jones against Detroit, put himself on our radar. How?
I'm not sure how to feel about this one because I had Dre'Mont Jones, ranked in sleeper territory preseason. We're talking like mid to low 20s, I think, in D line. Somebody to stash that I thought was in for a sack breakout this year. And then through 7 games to open the season, he had no sacks whatsoever. He had two total quarterback hits. I was like, all right, I guess I forgot to set the alarm on this sleeper. Week 8, though, faced Washington, got a sack and a half in that one. That's, I guess, the game where you want to turn things around is when Washington comes up on your schedule. But sack and a half in that game. In the 6 games since then, including that game, Jones has 5.5 sacks, 8 total quarterback hits. The tackle total is up a little bit as well to help support that fantasy floor. So I don't know that he's gotten significantly better playing wise overall, or if he's just gotten a little bit more lucky sack wise, but it certainly looks like he's at least getting closer to the quarterback, which is going to make it easier to convert some of those into sacks. And he's got Cincinnati and Vegas the next 2 weeks, which are positive matchups for sack collectors. So we like Dre'Mont Jones for those 2 games. I would probably move away from him for week 17, fantasy championship week against the Chargers, even if he gives you big stuff over the next 2 weeks. The last time that Denver faced the Chargers in week 12, Dre'Mont Jones basically did nothing despite 58 dropbacks for Justin Herbert.
This week, Saturday, we got Saturday football. First game, Raiders-Browns, at least as of right now, it's on. I'm not quite sure who's going to be active for the Browns, but right now it looks like Nick Chubb will be and Dearness Johnson will be, which means the Raiders linebackers are going to face a lot of rush attempts. Good for our tackle-heavy leagues, but good enough for there to be anybody that we trust in our lineups.
I'm keeping my phone nearby in case they need me to play safety this week.
Yeah.
The Raiders, I don't know if they're going to have Denzel Perriman. He missed last week with an ankle sprain, was still not practicing as of Tuesday. We'll see if he's back today or tomorrow, but not looking good for Denzel Perriman. Cory Littleton barely played last week, 19 snaps. It should have been a spot for him to rack up tackles. I haven't seen anything about an injury to him. I don't think that he got hurt. I think that he just stinks and is the latest example of why not to pay your off-ball linebacker. It's a harsh business, but it just doesn't tend to pay off. So instead, their lead linebacker last week was Divine Diablo, which is not my drag name, but it was a former safety who played linebacker, filled in for Denzel Perriman for that game. He got 11 tackles on just 57% playing time in place of Perriman the week before in the game Perriman left. Started in place of him last week, 79% playing time there, 10 more tackles in that one. Divine Diablo is a safety on my fantasy league. He's a safety on sleeper. So that could be somebody that helps you out in one of those spots where we're often kind of gambling on boom bust guys. Diablo looks like a much safer tackle bet in that game against Cleveland than a lot of safeties or cornerbacks that you're going to be able to find to play DB roles. We also got a resurrection of KJ Wright last week, played a season high 74% of the snaps, only 4 tackles though. So I'm not sure he resurrected all the way.
Yeah, not the best strategy paying Nick Kwiatkowski and Cory Littleton. And by the way, obviously your drag name is Matricia Sheep. That's my call, at least if you're looking for an input. Go ahead.
I'm Wiener Schnitzel over here.
Yeah, it's something German. The Lions, I don't have a nice transition to go from German to the Lions, but like the Raiders, they're going to spend a lot of time on defense probably down the stretch. The question is, Tracy Walker, finally we didn't have him with that Matt Patricia game. There's your Matt Patricia game, pulling him in and out of the lineup. We thought we could trust him. Now maybe we can't trust him. Linebackers, we've certainly seen a lot of players circulate through there. We've been waiting for Derek Barnes. Is there anybody from the Lions back 7 we can trust?
Well, the way the Lions have performed this year, maybe they'd put on a better show if they dressed in drag most weeks. So there's your transition.
We're going off the rails now.
I don't know yet about the Lions. Alex Anzalone left last week with an ankle injury. It sounds like he's day-to-day, so we don't know yet if he's going to play in this game. That should be good news for Derek Barnes, you would think, but you would have been wrong last week. He did elevate his playing time to 69%. There we go again. Season high there for him, but Josh Woods has played more snaps than Derek Barnes each of the past 2 weeks, filling in for Jalen Reeves-Maybin, led the way with 94% playing time this past Sunday, 13 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 1 quarterback hit in his first start, played 57% of the snaps the week before, 8 tackles in that playing time, 6 solo in that one. So, if we have no Alex Anzalone this week, Josh Woods has a chance to be a guy for you. I would like to think that most of us are not reaching down that level. And I mean, even though he's just showed us that he's somebody who could give you a surprise 10 tackles, I would rather lean on somebody that I've been trusting for most of the year than take a chance that he does it again. But deep enough league, multiple linebacker / flex spots. I think you can look at Josh Woods as a potential sleeper. At safety, we'll have to wait and see if Tracy Walker is back off the COVID list for the game this week. Even whether he is or not, Dean Marlowe has been an option because he has been starting at safety next to Tracy Walker for the past few weeks since Will Harris moved to slot cornerback after AJ Parker landed on injured reserve.
Marlowe came up with John Norton, the Guru, last week. So, when Matricia Sheep and the Guru both agree, Matricia Wiener Schnitzel, then we got something there with Dean Marlowe, Detroit playing Arizona. They probably wish they had a player like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who really is the answer to those athletic quarterbacks. Ask Lamar Jackson. He's rolling, and he sounds like he is someone we do trust down the stretch.
Yeah, another speedy linebacker. Maybe Divine Diablo is the drag name for Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, since it's so
easier to say. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's just rolling at this point. A quieter game, 5 solo tackles, 1 quarterback hit in the rematch with Baltimore coming out of the bye. But the big takeaway is he played a season high 97% of the snaps in that one. So it's good to see him stay in that kind of full-time role. Anthony Walker, another linebacker for the Browns, was out for that game on the COVID list. We'll see whether he's back for this week. But even if he is, I think we should expect starter level playing time for JOK. We should expect him to be in kind of the LB3 mix for us at this point.
What should we expect from one Jerome Baker, who at times is one of our biggest IDP assets, but has been inconsistent? This week, he's going to get to chase around Zach Wilson.
Another example of not to pay your off-ball linebacker. And frankly, probably an even worse decision because Miami last year during the season both took him out of the lineup and then extended him. So, I mean, if you decided that somebody was playing so poorly that you limit his playing time, probably not the best time to give him a big long-term contract. But that's kind of a side for us right now. The thing that we need to be aware of is that Jerome Baker has stunk for fantasy this year. And it's not because his playing time has disappeared. He's been on the field. He's just not making plays for us. I don't know that he's going to rebound. I do know that lately he has seen a lot more pass rushing reps, 16 plus pass rushes in 3 of his past 5 games, according to Pro Football Focus. That, of course, was his biggest area of fantasy production last year. That stretch has included 23 pass rushes against the Giants, 32 against Baltimore in that Thursday night game, another 11 even at the Jets in week 11. And that, of course, is who the Dolphins are playing again this week. The Jets have allowed the 7th most sacks on the year. So Jerome Baker could play a bad game and still come out of that one with a sack and a half or 2.
Yeah, and you usually come out of the IDP Blitz with a thing or two to help your IDP team getting deep into the season here. Again, the new fantasy football skills, just staying on top of things and seeing who's going to be playing and who isn't. There's no reason for us to even try to update that now on Wednesday, but certainly you can find over at Draft Sharks. Follow Matt, SCHAUFDS. At Footballguys, we're going to be staying on top of those things with our projections to make sure that you have the best lineup you can possibly field in this marathon through a minefield that is the NFL, that is fantasy football. We like taking that trip with you every year, folks, because you're so